All right, good evening and welcome to the January 9th, 2023 meeting of the Marshfield Planning Board. The time is now 7:02 p.m. Tonight's meeting is being recorded by MCTV and we are holding a live remote meeting via Zoom. Our members here tonight are Katie O'Donnell, Nick Papastratis, Fred Monaco is absent, Kevin Cantwell is currently absent. I am the chair, Mike Viviano, and our associate member is Scott Castro. Greg Geeman, our town planner, is not going to be with us tonight. And also with us is Karen Horn, our assistant town planner. At this time, I'll make a motion to open tonight's public hearing and waive the reading of the notice. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Stay, Nick.
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Me and Mike Viviano, aye. That's right down for me. Okay, first on the agenda, well, we're gonna have to wait on Jedediah's path until we have Kevin, so. If anyone was here for the Juniper Road meeting, that is going to be continued until 1/23/23. So I'll make a motion that we continue the Juniper Road public hearing until 1/23/23 at 7:05. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Nick.
Nick Papastratis, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. So that's continued until 1/23. Turn my volume up. I can't hear anyone. There we go. Karen, we're skipping the zoning articles then?
Well, you don't have to. The vote is to just put them on the warrant. We did discuss them at the last meeting. I think you were absent. But this is not the public hearing. This is just to put the articles on the warrant. The warrant closes on the 25th, I think.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you wanted to talk about them, we can. It's up to
I
you.
just want to go over them real quick and then we can take a vote on them.
Sure. The first article is to allow self-service storage facilities in the business district in B1, B2, B3, and the industrial district. By right, there's no use listed right now for that. I think we've talked about these before. The second article is the definition of a storage facility. We have changing part of the B3 district down between Adams Road and Heather Road to the R3, right? And making the definition for educational uses comply with the Dover Amendment is Article D. We're proposing to make accessory apartments by right. It would be the same zoning, but just they wouldn't need a special permit. And the last article is to allow banners on utility poles by amending the sign bylaw. So we would propose to put them on the spring town meeting, and we would be scheduling a public hearing probably the beginning of March.
Okay, I remember going all over those before. Any questions from the board on those? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we instruct Greg and Karen to submit those for annual town meeting 2023, and we will schedule a public hearing to discuss. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Looks like Kevin's here. Were you here for that, Kevin? All right, we'll get to him in a minute. Mike Viviano, aye, so that passes 3-0. Kevin, are you with us now? Oh, there he is. Can you hear us? Give Kevin a minute there.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. You hear us now? Just want to make sure you can hear us, Kevin. Did we lose him? There's so many people, it's hard to search through them all.
Yeah, I know, I think he dropped off.
He's probably gonna try to come back in again. Well, we could do the release of surety. Do we know those numbers?
We do. The surety for the street improvement on Old Summer, Flower Hill Lane, we're holding $34,236. We received inspection from Pat. They have done everything they're supposed to do, so we can go ahead and release that.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we release the surety for Old Summer. $34,236. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye, so that passes 3-0. While we're waiting for Kevin still, do we have any minutes?
We do have minutes for the 11/21 meeting. Greg should have sent them out to you this morning.
Okay. Any issues with any of the meeting minutes, anyone? All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of 11/21/22. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. That passes 3-0. Well, we'll get all the small stuff out of the way, huh?
Hey, Mike, I apologize. Kevin Cantwell.
Oh, there you go, Kevin. Yeah, I figured having a little technical difficulty.
Exactly.
You got the Fred bug. Karen, is this Jedediah's Path a public hearing?
It is.
Okay,
um,
so I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for Jedediah's Path. It's the remand from the court, and waive the reading of the notice. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Karen, you want to give us give the board a little update on why this is back to us?
Okay, as you know, the board approved this subdivision back in July. One of the abutters, the Bazinas, appealed that decision, and I understand that the Bazinas and the applicant have been talking and think that they have a proposal that they wanted to bring back to the board, so the judge has sent it back on remand for us to discuss the proposal.
Okay, so if we look at the proposal and decide to change something, then it ends their legal issues, possibly.
Yes, if so, this is a modification. If the board is acceptable of the modifications, then we could go ahead and do that. The board could also decide they don't agree with the changes, in which case it would just go back to the judge and we'd be where we were before.
Okay. All the board members understand that it's coming back here. We can change or not change. We're not required to do anything. We're just hearing them out. So, all right, who's here presenting?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Jeff DeLisi. I will be representing Brendan Paris, who is the applicant in this particular case.
Okay.
I'm also with, I think that my client, Brendan Paris, is here, but I know that Kevin Grady is in as well, and Kevin's going to review the plan with you. Great. Just briefly, I know Karen has given you a recap. Blueberry Hill Estates was created in '93. The town took Jedediah's Path as a public street in the year 2000. Jedediah's Path, the roadway that is actually a subdivision road that is a dead end that serves serves 8 homes south of Oakman Way intersection, and that's 4 on each side. So there are 2 current circumstances within Blueberry Hills Estates whereby small roads or access ways off of the subdivision roads access more than one house. One of those circumstances is off of Oakman Way, just a few hundred yards away, and the other is off of Jedediah's Path itself. To refresh the board's recollection, when the subdivision was laid out in 1993, it was laid out with a 40-foot wide access parcel extending from the far end of the existing cul-de-sac. And that distance of that particular access parcel was about 84 feet in length. And behind it is a 3.8 acre parcel, which is vacant. My client and his wife have entered into a purchase and sale agreement to buy the access road and the 3.8 acre parcel. The parcel itself is only sufficient for 2 lots, and Grady Consulting has laid out a 2-lot subdivision. Brendan and his wife will be constructing 1 house and moving in on one of the lots and selling the other. So as Karen had indicated, last summer you approved a 2-lot subdivision. There was quite a bit of opposition, if you recall. Ultimately, the board granted minimal waivers, and the applicant complied with the specification that's in your regulations that requires the removal of the existing cul-de-sac and the installation of a new one at the end of the road. At the time, the board discussed 3 alternatives. One was the plan that was approved. The other 2 alternatives, both of which had the existing cul-de-sac remaining, one with a hammerhead turnaround at the end and the other with cul-de-sac at the end. The fire chief did appear at one of the hearings. He articulated a concern concerning the roadway width. He was asked his preference as to the cul-de-sac or hammerhead, and he offered to go to the property for a further look, but that never occurred because the board expressed a desire for the removal of the existing cul-de-sac and a new cul-de-sac to be installed. The matter was appealed, litigation before the land court. The court cited judicial economy and requested that the parties engage in settlement discussions, which really were actually quite fruitful. There was a good back and forth, and plans were drawn up and provided. And ultimately, the plan before you today is what the court is asking for you to consider, that is mutually agreeable with the private parties in this case. And so it was pretty obvious during the course of the settlement discussion, and I know that attorney Sean McCormick is here tonight. He represents the neighbors, the Vezinas, but it became quite clear to me that the priority was the least amount of disruption to the plaintiff's property, and they were adamant that they wanted to see the existing cul-de-sac to remain as is. So we asked the fire chief to come out to the property, which he did. He met us last week. And I believe he sent the board a letter at the end of last week, which indicated that the design which you have, which does include a proposed hammerhead turnaround, meets the technical needs of the fire department. And so I'm going to ask Kevin Grady to review the plan, and I believe Attorney McCormick will wish to say a few words, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we can move on to Kevin.
Great, Kevin.
Thanks, Jeff. Sorry if I share the screen. Karen needs to allow me to share the screen if.
So I've made you a co-host.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, can everybody see the PDF plan here?
We can.
Okay. So you've seen this plan somewhat recently and are probably familiar with Jedediah's Path. Oakman Way, I'll just zoom into the locus here, but there's 2 access points to Route 3A here, Oakman Way here, Jedediah's Path, and it terminates in a cul-de-sac, as Attorney DeLisi described, serving 8 houses in this location. We presented plans last year where we proposed the removal of the cul-de-sac as described by Attorney DeLisi, and proposed another cul-de-sac here. And as was described, this has been remanded. We worked with the abutters to come up with a mutual agreement and a strategy that we could present to the board. So the plans basically at this point, what we're proposing to do is retain the existing cul-de-sac at the request of the plaintiffs and pretty much the entire neighborhood based on our previous presentations. What we're proposing to do is access the existing cul-de-sac with a 20-foot roadway. This meets the requirement of a type C road, the 20-foot wide paved access. So that the 20 feet wide is for about 100 feet and change. And then we widen it to 24 feet in this location for maneuverability for the fire apparatus and emergency equipment. In this section here, we're proposing 20-foot wide road, 1 foot Cape Cod berm, and a 4-foot sidewalk. And we're proposing them all together because in our discussions with the fire department recently and going back to the previous meetings, they're looking for more than 20 feet to get the stabilizers of the ladder truck down. So when we make this monolithic one-piece pavement, the stabilizers can actually go down on the sidewalk and also in the roadway, and that gives them plenty of maneuvering. So 25 feet in paved width altogether. So I'll just flip through the plans real quick here. So existing conditions plans, we saw that we're accessing this acreage here through this parcel. We're proposing a conforming cul-de-sac right of way that accesses 2 lots. So this looks like a standard subdivision here. We're providing everything that's necessary on the right of way width and the cul-de-sac rounding, etc. We're proposing the turnaround within that right of way cul-de-sac bubble, I'll call it. And we reviewed these driveways and access to the lots in our previous discussions. As far as access to the lots, we come down the 20-foot wide way and take a right into this driveway off of there, and then we'd be utilizing part of the turnaround to go in this driveway. Both of these have plenty of parking ability and significant maneuverability for the emergency vehicles. I did a turning analysis with the town of Marshfield ladder truck. Basically comes in here head first, backs in and can exit here. So safe and adequate access for emergency vehicles. Roadway profile, road's pretty flat. It's a driveway with 2%, and just over 3.5% here. Nice easy grades. This is just drainage info and some details. The landscape plan, where there is woodland basically in the Iafredo's yard here. We're looking to maintain that woodland. We're not proposing to put street trees in woods because it's already has a landscape feature associated with it. The business side, again, this was their big issue is that they've landscaped this side to their liking, and they don't want that to be altered. So there's decent trees in this location. Where we're on the applicant's property, we are proposing some street trees, and we're looking to add additional trees in the cul-de-sac to meet the planning board requirements for trees and also make a good looking landscaped area. The cross section is probably where the majority of waivers are needed. What we're proposing to do is have a 20-foot wide paved section, as I described previously, 12-foot Cape Cod berm, and a 4-foot sidewalk. Now we offset that from the center of the right-of-way. The right-hand side has a 15-foot section here, and the purpose of that is to maintain the plaintiff's landscape area that they've had for however many years they've been there. The roadway is also super elevated, so there's not a ton of runoff created by this 20-foot wide driveway. It's not a high-speed road. Crowning of the road isn't really necessary in this case to break up the catchment areas into multiple small catch basin areas. That's really the purpose of the road, and then crowning it. I mean, that's the purpose of crowning it, is to break it in half. Again, not a high-speed road. There's no real issue with super elevating a 20-foot wide roadway. The highways you go down all over the state are super elevated in areas, more for banking purposes at speed, but water is, it's not an issue for water to go across the driveway with a decent slope. The right of way that's required is 46 feet, but the parcel that we're accessing from is 40.62. We discussed that at length and got waivers on that at the previous approval.
Oh, that's pretty big.
And erosion control plans. So I think that's pretty much. I think I'll leave it at that and
Okay.
take any questions, or Attorney DeLisi has anything he wants to add that I may have missed. We'll go from there.
Is Pat Brennan here at all tonight, Karen?
No, Pat hasn't reviewed these changes yet. He said if we needed him, I could reach out to him, but I think it's mostly waivers that we're discussing tonight anyway.
Okay.
Just a couple of things really briefly before you move on. You can see that what we've tried to do is to create a circumstance that maintains the status quo as best as possible and disrupts as least as possible. And that's why you see the plan that you do. We actually look at this. I mean, it's a 2-lot subdivision. I know that Jedediah's Path on the south side of Oakman Way serves eight houses. But if the existing cul-de-sac is kept in place, there's no need to be concerned about vehicles accessing the last 2 lots and having to have a space really to turn around, because they would use the existing cul-de-sac. So we think that's a bit of a win on this circumstance. So that's about it. And I know that Kevin, didn't you say that you spoke with Pat Brennan about this?
Yep, I did speak with Pat, and he forwarded me an email that he had sent to Greg, basically saying he had no issues with drainage because we're reducing pavement. He did comment on connections of sidewalks in the email, and he said he could look at it in more detail, but he didn't really think it was necessary.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, can you just zoom in back on the plan to identify the extent of the sidewalk one more time?
Sure. This is at a large, or a bigger scale, but the sidewalks, sorry. The sidewalk would go from the right of way down to along the frontage of lot 2. So once you made it to here, you could cross to this lot down the driveway. Give you another view if you'd like, Nick.
Yeah, that'd be good.
See. Let me switch.
Kevin, where do the existing sidewalks terminate? They don't go all the way around the existing cul-de-sac, am I correct?
Correct. The existing terminate here prior to reaching the frontages of the 156 and 155. So we just extended the sidewalk along this edge here to get access to the roadway. Again, as Attorney DeLisi said, we're trying to do the least impact possible on these abutting lots and to the neighborhood. So that's how we came up with this configuration. We do make it to the frontage of this lot, and this driveway is pretty much directly across the way and it's accessible.
And I know that you asked about the sidewalk. Just I saw that Greg had a comment to the board about the width of the sidewalk. Our research indicated that a 48 inch wide sidewalk is what is required in this circumstance under the statute in Massachusetts.
Architectural Access Board 521.
Nick, any other questions?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? And I can't see everyone, so just, you can speak up, but you can only see 6 people at a time.
Not right now, Mike. I'm good.
Okay. All right, can we maybe stop sharing the screen for a minute, just so I can see everybody?
Sure. See if I can find it. Here we go. Stop share.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So at this time, we can take a couple comments from the public. Just need your name and address, and just raise your hand and I can call your name out to go. And if there's none, that's okay. Okay, it looks like Sean is up first. I see you, Sean.
Thank you. My name is Sean McCormick. I have a office at 1 Boston Place, Boston, and I represent John and Maureen Vizina at 156 Jedediah's Path. I'm really appreciative of the board's time and the applicant's time tonight. I don't have much to add to what Jeff and Kevin, I think, very adequately have described, but I just wanted to emphasize that we're at this point, my clients and Mr. Paris and the members of the board, they're all parties to litigation, and we're trying to come up with a compromise. I think to the applicant's credit, he's made concessions, he's given things up. I think my clients have been reasonable and have given some things up. And so what we're looking for the board to do is essentially the big waiver on this cul-de-sac. It's really important to the people who live there. It's a big deal. And I think that the way that Grady has designed this compromise position is really the best of all possible worlds. I mean, it leaves the infrastructure that the residents have come to know, it leaves it intact. It passes muster with the fire chief. And it's really, I'd really appreciate the board's support on this. And I think we've just presented a really, or I shouldn't say we, I think Jeff has presented a really good, a really good modification, and I ask for everyone's support.
Okay, thank you. Next, I saw Chris.
Hi, Chris White, 108 Jedediah's Path, and I just want to thank the board for their consideration on this, and to state that I fully support this plan, this compromise.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Anyone else in the public want to raise your hand? Yeah, if anyone except the board right now can speak, just raise your hand. Or if you don't have a camera on, say your name and I can call you. All right, I don't see anyone. So that's fine. Any other comments from the board right now? Karen, do we have a list of the actual waivers that would need to be granted? Or has a
On the plan that Grady put together, they had a list of a dozen waivers. Greg also identified 2 more. It's important to note the approved subdivision only had 3 waivers.
okay, and was there an issue I saw today with an email with the frontage? Somebody was questioning the frontage on the hammerhead?
Yes, the frontage was also brought up at the last hearing just briefly. Katie had asked if, at the prior hearing, if a hammerhead would create frontage. It's staff's opinion that the frontage needs to be on a constructed way, and that the lot, one of the lots, well, to the left as you're looking at the plan, would get front, I guess about 120 feet of frontage around the proposed constructed hammerhead. The other lot doesn't appear to have nearly enough frontage. They're
So that could
proposing
become-
to use the layout of the cul-de-sac. We have always required it to be on a constructed way road.
Okay,
Mike, if Karen, once you're done.
No, I'm good right now.
Great. I may have been responsible for raising this issue again, just in the interest of belt and suspenders. When you're talking frontage, you're dealing with zoning frontage, and you're dealing with planning board frontage.
what's the difference, Jeff?
Zoning frontage, the zoning bylaw requires frontage to be on a plan laid out and recorded, and the various definitions allow the cul-de-sac to the layout of the cul-de-sac to meet that technical definition. So from a zoning frontage perspective, it's my opinion, we're fine. From a planning board perspective, what your regulation actually says is that you're to concern yourself with safe physical access. So if you consider this plan and determine that you think that the hammerhead provides safe physical access, then you can approve the plan without the requirement of any waiver that the road actually needs to be constructed. The
Jeff,
cul-de-sac.
real quick, just interrupted. Did you run that by Andrew, the building commissioner?
I did not run it by Andrew. I did speak, or I did communicate that to council, Tony
Yeah,
Riley, who I think is here tonight.
I think Andrew would be the one to issue a building permit. If he didn't think there was
Right.
proper access, you could be right back here.
Mike, I did talk to Andrew this morning,
Okay.
and he did agree that it should be on the constructed way. And I would say that in the planning board definition of safe physical access, we've always taken that through the required distance of frontage.
Yeah.
And so it would be 125 feet of physical access.
Yeah, I think there's only one time I ever remember allowing frontage, but it was too close to wetlands. And down Paraguayan Way, they couldn't construct the road as far as they needed, and we allowed them to do that still. So this is a bit different.
We
So-
would only need to, excuse me, Mike, it's Kevin Grady.
Okay,
We
go
could,
ahead.
we could extend the pavement 25 additional feet and have safe and adequate access of 125 feet of paved surface pretty easily in
Yeah,
this
it seems like
case.
that would
because-
alleviate this.
Yeah,
Could you
because right
put the
now,
Plan back up, Kevin, to
sure,
show that.
sure. So let's see. This piece of pavement right here is 84 feet long. This one's 20. We could just extend it with a rounding like so. And, extend it along that curve very easily to 125 feet, which is the prescribed required frontage. You guys see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, good, because I'm getting an error message on one of my
Oh.
monitors here.
We see it. So,
You'd
All
have
right, why
to
don't we
extend the other
zoom-
side too, I think, like 5 feet or so, I think.
This one,
Yeah,
let me just measure that real quick and tell you what I.
well, let's, you'd have to show that on the plan anyway
Yeah,
at a next meeting anyway. We don't have to worry about measuring anything. So just zoom back out so I can see the other members.
sure, so stop share,
yeah.
please.
no problem.
So we've heard this come back. We see the new plan. It's very similar to their old option number 1 that we didn't vote on because it didn't look like it was going to pass. So we don't waste time, not that we're wasting time, but so we don't waste anybody's time. I kind of need to know where the board stands roughly. Are we interested in having them come back and show this new frontage on this new plan? And does it have a possibility of moving forward after we have another meeting? Or are members still against this and will not be changing their vote at all, no matter what we see, because it needs so many waivers and it doesn't meet what we typically like to see. I think it's the only way not to waste people's time. I was always in favor of option number 1 before, very close to what is shown here. So I would be in favor personally of having them come back and showing us with the frontage, because it's definitely an issue, the frontage, and having another meeting on it, looking at it again and possibly voting on it. But I'm just one of the 5 that are here. So, or 4 that are here. So, I guess, Kevin, what's your thought? Is it worth seeing this come back to us?
Hi, Mike. I would like to see come back to us. I think at the time when we first discussed it, it was 2 to 2, I believe, at the time. So I would like to see it come back.
Okay. Nick or Katie?
I still want to go with the approval that most closely meets the town's bylaws. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that the subdivision was constructed with the this end piece being so many years between construction. But I think the number of waivers and the things that are being questioned here make me worry about precedent in other parts of town. And I'd like to look at the frontage issue more closely, but I don't think that I'm going to be in favor of the hammerhead. So again, in interest of not wasting people's time or money. That's
Okay. Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, I would agree with what Katie said. I am not in favor of what's been presented in front of us tonight.
Okay, so I guess Jeff and Kevin, and I don't know.
We're in the same spot we were.
I feel like we're really in the same exact spot, and I don't want to waste your time or the client's money or the neighbor's time. So, Sean, you want to make a comment real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I appreciate that the regulations say what the regulations say. The planning board is empowered to grant waivers. And this is this just strikes me as such a like what waivers were created for. I mean, you have a situation here where everyone who is directly impacted, the people who live there, the people who are paying for the development, are in favor of a waiver that allows the cul-de-sac to remain. The fire chief has said that there's no safety issue. So I think that to some extent, I'm not sure that the objections are well founded.
So,
I mean, we're talking
Sean,
about.
Sean, let me interrupt you real quick. Every board member here gets a vote. So if you don't agree with our decision, then you could appeal that, which was done. And I don't think we need to take we don't need to go too deep into why they don't want to. That's their decision. And it's the opposite of mine, but I'm still going to defend them, saying they get their vote and that's it.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. I do think it is my, right to advocate for my clients
You
here.
did that in the
Okay.
hearing. You had your
Um,
chance. I think you did a good job. You all made good points.
Mike, if I can jump in briefly, if that's okay,
You can.
thank you. Um, I respect the positions of Katie and Nick. I just wanted to ask two things. Number one, I wanted to encourage you guys to look at I think that the purposes of the waiver on, or of the requirement that there be a turnaround at the end of the road. In this particular case, if you were to leave the cul-de-sac so close to a second cul-de-sac, I think that the objectives would be met, and we have the fire chief saying that from a safety perspective.
Well, Jeff, just
he's
real
good.
quick, we don't have two cul-de-sacs proposed. We have a cul-de-sac with a hammerhead at the end of it. And I
Right, I
think
get it,
Katie say
but
she's not in favor of hammerhead.
But if the board was still deadlocked on this particular issue, what I was gonna ask the board is whether it would consider a scenario where we keep the existing cul-de-sac and create a second cul-de-sac at the end, as opposed to a hammerhead, right? Because it's the hammerhead, I think, that is the concern here.
I think there's more than that in their concerns, but I don't want to answer for them. So Katie or Nick, would having a second cul-de-sac down the end change this at all?
No,
Okay. Nick?
No, I think it's the sidewalk. Essentially, there's a discontinuous sidewalk that's proposed, the hammerhead. I mean, obviously, we cycled through the scenario of two cul-de-sacs on the previous hearing, so I think we know where that ended.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you have more than just a second cul-de-sac down the end, like I suspected, as an issue or a roadblock for you. Karen, do we need any kind of vote on this public hearing if we're not going to do anything? Is it like a vote to not take a decision? I don't know what the court would want to see from us.
I would ask our counsel, Tony, what, can we just vote 2-2? Do we need, what are our options?
Well, the purpose of this was to consider these plans. So if you're going to vote to deny it, I suppose, or to not approve it on a 2-2 vote, there's two options. The applicant can just withdraw, and then we can go back to the land court. Or if you vote to deny it, we go back to the land court anyway, because the judge has retained jurisdiction over the case. So you can do either one, or you could vote, or the applicant can withdraw it. I think either way, we end up back at the land court with the same judge because of the court retaining the jurisdiction over the case. So either way.
Yeah, I don't see us helping at all either way if we take a vote. So Jeff, would you like to see a vote on this? Does that help anyone in court, or would you want to withdraw?
Well, right now we have 4 of 5 members present, so we have a quorum, right? And we need there would need to be 3 votes for action one way or the other, I guess.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, maybe does the board think that it is appropriate to continue the hearing and ask Mr. Monaco to review the tape and weigh in on this at the next meeting?
Well, I will say he was the third nay vote. I believe it was Kevin and myself voted in favor, and the other 3 members were against.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's necessarily the way to go.
Yeah, I see no harm in doing it, but
Well, let me ask you this: if we talk to Fred and he wants to review the tape, if he's willing to bring it back, I guess you're right. There is no harm in that. I can ask. He can say no. He doesn't want to do that.
Well, I think we'd continue it that way, and then.
Yeah, well, we can continue this hearing to the next one, and if he says he's not going to do it, or, you know, if his mind's not going to change, then you could just ask us to, you know, you can withdraw the
That would be appreciated, Mr. Chair.
meeting. Okay, I'm willing to do that. I think that's fair. All right, any other questions, comments from the board? Karen, what's the next hearing date? 23rd?
The 20,
Second.
the
27th.
calendar's too far away now, I can't read it.
Oh.
The 23rd.
23rd, okay. All right, so right now, that's gonna be a plan. I'm gonna make a motion that we continue this public hearing until 1/23/23, somewhat pending Fred's decision to review the tapes or not. Is there a second?
Well, it's
Well,
not.
it'll be continued
it's-
either way,
Yeah,
right?
we're continued either way. It's not up to Fred.
All right, I said that wrong. All right, is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie,
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Kittle, yes.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, so that will be continued. If something changes in the meanwhile, we can send out notice about that.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. All right, well, we got through all the small things. Was there a staff report at all?
Just an update. We're doing more economic development workshops because they're so much fun. So we're doing Brant Rock on January 18th at 6:30. And then the industrial area on February 8th and downtown on 2/15. What Greg is hoping to get out of those are more specific action items of what we can do to follow up from the MAPC surveys in meetings. So where people just suggested the zoning should change in different areas, we're hoping to sort of tease out some more specific ideas for some of the residents. So
Okay.
we've had a lot of people have interest in the Brant Rock one. The notice seemed to indicate, Greg, we identified areas that we were looking for, and people seem to be very worried that there are plans on the table for either Blackman's Point or the Venus or anything, but really it's just, we're just looking for suggestions of what people might want to see down the road for redevelopment in those areas. So,
Okay, thank you. Karen, do you know, did they ever get that telephone pole removed off of Greg Gibbs Street?
not yet, but they are, I guess Egan he's working on it.
Okay, was
So
his driveway done? And the
there
sidewalk?
was some parts done, the rest of it can't be done till it moves the pole, but supposedly they're working towards that.
Okay,
So. but
just haven't heard anything in a while on it.
Yeah, there's some issues with some of the other lots up in the hill. One of the lots isn't putting in the retaining wall that they're supposed to, so we have that issue to deal with, and there's only 2 lots that haven't been released, and they're in the WRPD right now, so Greg Gibbs is we're sort of at an impasse at the moment.
Okay, well,
But
not that I want to get into talking about Greg too far without him being
Right.
here, but.
that's
just
where
wanted
we
to
are
say.
with those, yeah.
Sounds good. Any other questions or updates from the board? No. Okay, well, hopefully put that other issue to bed next time, and thank you for being here, and thank you, Karen, and sorry to hear about Greg's mom. Hope she does well. I'll make a motion to close tonight's hearing. Is there a second?
second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Kittle, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. That concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you.
All right, good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.